You can love anybody. It's a decision. You decide, you do it, it's done. It's that simple. I'm a former Olympic athlete, a sprint cyclist. That's all about short distance, power, and speed. And the objective is to beat your opponent. You get on the velodrome, your front wheel crosses the finish line before your opponent, you win, and you move on to the next round. This is a bit like Caesar in the Colosseum, where if you win, it's thumbs up, if you lose, it's thumbs down, and only one gladiator walks off the field alive. You can't be timid, you can't hold back, and you have to gain access to your full potential. And my Olympic race culminated 14 years boiled down to 9 seconds. And that's why you have to have a champion's mind. You have to trust your preparation, because when you trust your preparation, then you get access to the 1 or 2% that's necessary to leave it all on the field. And you're probably asking yourself, well, what does this have to do with loving anybody? Well, it has to do with leaving it all on the field. And love is unconditional. And it's also the portal by which you gain access to your full potential. And if you can't love, then you can't leave it all on the field. And the most important thing that I learned as a champion, I learned from my adopted daughter, Ken, K-I-N, Ken. That's, you can love anybody. And my wife and I adopted Ken at the age of 10 from the violent, crime-ridden, drug-infested, gritty streets of Northwest Colombia, the drug capital of the universe. And there's a provision in that situation. I was 58 at the time, and I was at the height of my game. I was working with Tiger Woods. I was working with Richard Branson. I was also working with U2 and Bono. I was helping athletes win gold medals. I was helping business people exponentially grow their businesses. And my wife was curating custom homes as a green, non-toxic interior designer. And Colombia had a provision that if you were going to adopt a child, you had to go to Colombia and take legal possession of them for 6 weeks. And at the end of 6 weeks, then everybody voted. And if it was a unanimous vote, thumbs up, then you went home as a happy family. If there was one dissenting voice, then you went home empty-handed. And one of the best days of my life is when we universally decided to go all thumbs up to leave a happy family. And when we got onto the airplane and returned back to the United States, my daughter, Ken, confided in us that she thought that the blinking lights of an airplane flying around at night were shooting stars. She didn't know they were airplanes. And she had no idea that America, she thought America was around the corner from her little village. She had absolutely no clue. And when we got back to the United States, I said to my wife, I pulled her aside, Kristina, I said, look, you know, raising Ken, I mean, this is a formidable task by a magnitude of 1 million. She doesn't speak any English, and we don't speak any Spanish. We have no language here. And she has virtually no school. And she has severe PTSD and ADHD from getting beat up and abused her entire life. I mean, this is formidable. She also has a parasitic-ridden body, and she has severe trust issues. And our ambition for Ken was to not just save her life, but it was to manifest her potential. And I told my wife to do that, I have to be a gold medal father. I can't be silver, I can't be bronze. And as an Olympian, I could barely get myself to say silver or bronze, just to let you know. And so what I said to her, I have to, tomorrow, I have to rescind and pull back 90% of my professional availability, and along with that goes 90% of our income. And we have to hire an army of people to get Ken back to her same age counterparts, both mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And my wife cried every day for 9 years and 10 months. It was so difficult dealing with Ken's insatiable appetite for cheating, for her combative behavior, for her lying, and her deception. It basically put us on our knees. And the other side of this is that we didn't take a day off, and we didn't take a vacation for 10 years. We didn't put anything into our retirement. But I never cracked. I never raised my voice. I never was frustrated. I never gave her that look of disapproval. I never said anything that would suggest any shame to her because she already had enough shame to last her life 1,000,000 times over. And my wife and I were very well aware of the fact that Ken had been up for adoption for 5 years and she wasn't adopted. So you can only imagine what she's thinking, is that nobody wants me. I'm not worthy of being adopted. And we were also aware that at a certain age, if you don't get adopted, you age out, meaning that you get put back on the streets, and there's only 3 options. It's going to be prostitution, it's going to be drug addiction, or worse yet, suicide. And so with Ken, I never thought that Ken's behavior was the real her. I always knew her to be this beautiful person that had this incredible sense of love, and she had this irrepressible spirit, and she had this just unbelievably incredible brain. But she was acting out that which other people imposed upon her that she did not ask for. And I also felt that she was testing us to see whether or not we were worthy of her trust. And the psychology behind that is that I'm going to make sure you don't love me. I'm going to make your life hell. And if you love me despite this, then you gain my trust. And so when Ken graduated from high school with honors, I had some suspicion about the honor roll honor type of thing. And then when she went to community college and she graduated with honors, I said, you know what, this is going to happen. It's only a matter of time. And then when she graduated from community college, she went on to be a scholarship student at a 4-year college for the last 2 years, and she graduated magna cum laude. She was back playing at the potential that she had, back on par with her same age counterparts. And with that, she now has a beautiful daughter, Sophia, our granddaughter, and they are 2 extraordinary individuals. And I want to share with you some of the truths that I know to be true from raising Ken. Decide. You decide you're going to love everybody. There doesn't need to be a special reason to do that. You do it because you know it's the right thing to do, and you're called to it. You don't barter with the universe or anybody, like, hey, I'll do this if I get that. No, you don't do that. You do it because it's the right thing to do, and it's unconditional. And when you do that, you have the full force of the most powerful force in the universe watching your back, which is love. Trust. There are moments when you face something so big and so monumental, you don't know what to do next. And that's when you have to trust the process. Trusting the process is when you do the 1 or 2 things that have to go right continuously. And then what eventually happens, you have that breakout moment where clarity shows up. You stay in the game until that shows up. You have to trust the process. You have to be bold. Bold, in a sense, is, in this dimension that we live in, the most prized commodity is energy and time. And some of the things that you're faced with that have to go right, when things have to go right, to be able to execute and manifest the improbable or the impossible, you try to do the math on that, you can't make sense out of it. There's not enough time and effort to make this happen. But what I can tell you is that there's always enough time and effort to do anything on behalf of other people. You're never going to find yourself lacking. Where it gets difficult is when we get frustrated because we're not getting what we want fast enough. You also have to show up. It's the most important decision anybody can make every day, and it has to be committed to every day. Because if people showed up differently for Ken, she wouldn't have the emotional tears and the soul challenges that she did not ask for that were imposed upon her. And when we make that decision to come from championness, this is where we gain confidence in ourselves, but we also show other people what's possible. And if there's ever a point in human history where we need beacons of hope, sanity, and courage, it's today. And you always have to hold space as well. Hold space for a miracle. Because sometimes that's all you got. And the magic of the miracle, and let me say this also, is that you cannot command a miracle into existence. I mean, it's a gift. And the gift of the miracle is that if you believe in the miracle, you're going to stay in the game indefinitely until it happens because it keeps you in the game. And eventually, given enough time, there will be some form of miracle. It may not be extraordinary. It may be just a small little kernel. But the point is that when you recognize that point of that miracle, that's when you go from believing that you can do it to knowing that you can do it. And at that point, it's game over. If you can't love, then you can't finish the job and walk off the field knowing that you've done everything possible to succeed. And I used to think that it was destroying my opponent, and I could walk off the field saying to myself and call myself a winner. But I now know that to walk off the field and call myself a winner, I have to be able to admit that the reason that I won is that I made the decision with a capital D to love, to play from my biggest champion. And my champion allowed me to be able to raise Ken. And Ken taught me how to leave it all on the field. Ken, I love you with all my heart and soul, eternally. Dad. Thank you.